When we speak about love, most people assume it is automatically a blessing. It is painted as the highest form of happiness, the ultimate gift, the thing that completes us. And yes, love can be one of the greatest blessings when it is grounded in sincerity, dignity, and faith. But it is also true that not every love is meant to be a gift. Sometimes what we call love is in reality a test. It is not Allah giving you something to enjoy forever, but Allah showing you something you must learn, endure, and eventually outgrow. This is an uncomfortable truth, because we like to romanticize relationships. We tell ourselves, if I feel so deeply, then surely this is from God. Surely it must mean something good. But feelings are not always evidence of blessings. Feelings can mislead. In fact, some of the strongest feelings you experience may be sent to you precisely so you can see yourself more clearly. Love can expose not only your heart's capacity, but also its weaknesses. Think about it. Allah says in the Quran that He created us to be tested. Everything in life is part of that test. Wealth, health, hardship, and yes, even love. Sometimes love is there to elevate you, to bring tranquility, to remind you of Allah. But other times it comes into your life to test your patience, to expose your attachments, to reveal what you cling to more tightly than you cling to your Creator. That is why not every relationship that feels intense or that consumes you is actually a blessing. Sometimes it is a mirror, and in that mirror you are forced to confront uncomfortable truths about yourself, how easily you can compromise your values, how quickly you can lose your boundaries, how much you depend on someone else to feel whole. This is the part of love that many of us don't want to admit, because it challenges the story we tell ourselves about romance and happiness. From a psychological perspective, love has a way of amplifying what lies beneath. If you are secure within yourself, love can expand that security. But if you are insecure, love can magnify your insecurities. If you struggle with trust, jealousy, or fear of abandonment, being in love will not erase those tendencies. It will shine a spotlight on them. Suddenly you find yourself anxious when you don't get a reply to a message. You find yourself feeling inadequate, comparing yourself to others, or obsessing over whether the other person truly cares. And in those moments, Allah is not punishing you. He is showing you yourself. He is saying, here is the part of you that needs work. Here is what you must address if you want to grow. It is important to understand this, because otherwise we waste years holding on to something toxic, telling ourselves it must be good because it feels so strong. We confuse intensity with purity. We confuse longing with blessing. But if something repeatedly strips you of your peace, if it pulls you away from your values, if it consumes you more than it centers you, then you must pause and ask, is this truly a gift or is it a test? Philosophically, this shifts the way we think about relationships. Instead of asking only, does this love make me happy? We begin asking, what is this love teaching me? What part of myself is being revealed here? Is this person bringing me closer to Allah or pulling me further away? That shift in perspective is what allows love to become either a source of gratitude or a source of awakening. And sometimes the most merciful thing Allah can do is give you a love that hurts, not to destroy you, but to wake you up, to break the illusions you hold about yourself, to show you how fragile your heart becomes when it is tied too tightly to creation instead of the Creator. In that sense, even the painful love is not wasted. It has a function. It has meaning. It serves as a mirror, reflecting what you might not have seen otherwise. So the next time you find yourself entangled in a love that feels heavy, that drains you, that forces you to confront your own impatience or your own weakness, don't rush to label it as a blessing. Ask yourself, is Allah showing me something here? Am I meant to learn a lesson rather than hold on to this forever? Not every love is a blessing to keep. Some loves are blessings only in the sense that they awaken you to yourself. They are mirrors Allah places before you so you can finally see what needs to change, what needs to be healed, and where your heart truly belongs. And perhaps the greatest blessing of all is not in keeping the love that tests you, but in allowing it to guide you back to Him. One of the most profound ways Allah teaches us about ourselves is through the relationships He places in our lives. Sometimes without realizing it, the person you love becomes a mirror. They reflect back to you not only your beauty and strengths, but also your flaws, your wounds, and the parts of your character you would rather ignore. And this is where the real lesson lies. Love has the power to uncover the truth about who you are. We often think we know ourselves. We think we are patient until someone tests our patience. We think we are generous until someone takes more than we are ready to give. We think we are forgiving until someone wounds us in a way we never expected. Love has a unique way of exposing those hidden corners of the self. It reveals your ego, your fears, your attachments, your capacity for sacrifice, and also your limits. And many times Allah uses the person in front of you as the mirror through which these truths become undeniable. This is why some relationships feel so uncomfortable. It's not always because the other person is bad or because you are wrong. It's because being in their presence forces you to confront something within yourself. Maybe their indifference reveals how much of your worth you tie to someone else's attention. Maybe their unreliability exposes how much control you try to have over situations. Maybe their withdrawal highlights the fear you carry of being abandoned. These are not easy lessons to learn. They sting because they touch wounds that are already there, buried deep inside. Psychologically, this is what we call projection and reflection. You see in others what you carry inside yourself. Sometimes you project your insecurities onto them, and sometimes they simply reflect them back. For example, if you are insecure about your value, even the smallest sign of neglect from someone you love will feel like confirmation of your deepest fear. I am not enough. The person may not even intend it that way, but the mirror is doing its work. It is showing you where healing is required. Now, the danger is when we misinterpret the mirror. Instead of seeing the lesson, we become consumed with trying to fix the person, or we blame them entirely for our emotional state. We say, if only they changed, I would be happy. But the truth is, the discomfort is not just about them, it's about what they are awakening within you. And that is where the real work lies. Allah places certain people in your path, not so you can lose yourself trying to fix them, but so you can find yourself through the reflection they offer. Philosophically, this is very powerful because it reframes how we look at love and pain. Instead of asking only, why is this happening to me? We begin to ask, what is this showing me about myself? What is Allah trying to reveal to me here? That shift turns a relationship from being merely a source of suffering into a classroom for growth. Suddenly you recognize that every moment of hurt, every disappointment, every unmet expectation has meaning. It is part of a mirror designed to teach you who you are and what you need to work on. But here is the key. The mirror is not always flattering. Sometimes you will see things you don't want to see. You will notice how quickly you get jealous, how deeply you crave validation, how easily your peace is disturbed. And in those moments you have two choices. You can deny what you see, smash the mirror, and walk away unchanged. Or you can have the humility to say, this is me. This is what Allah is showing me, and I need to work on it. The beauty of this process is that once you accept the reflection, you are no longer trapped by it. The mirror has served its purpose. You can begin to grow, to strengthen your relationship with yourself and with Allah, and to move toward a love that is healthier and more balanced. The problem is not that Allah placed a mirror in your life. The problem is when you mistake the mirror for the destination. Some of us hold on to the mirror as if it is the blessing, when in reality, it was only ever meant to help us see ourselves more clearly. So the next time love exposes something in you that is uncomfortable, don't rush to blame, don't rush to escape. Pause and reflect. What is this teaching me? What is Allah trying to show me here? If you can do that, even the most painful relationship becomes meaningful because it fulfills its purpose. It brings you closer to truth, closer to self-awareness, and ultimately closer to Allah. Remember this, the people you love are not always there to complete you. Sometimes they are there to reveal you to yourself. And the greatest tragedy is not in losing them, it is in failing to learn what their reflection was meant to teach you. One of the greatest dangers when it comes to love is when it shifts from being a gift of companionship to becoming an unhealthy attachment. Love in its purest form is meant to be a sign of Allah's mercy. It is supposed to bring balance, comfort, and a reminder of the divine. But when love becomes an obsession, when it consumes the heart more than the remembrance of Allah, it stops being a blessing and starts becoming a chain. The human heart was not created to worship creation. It was created to worship the Creator. Yet how often do we find ourselves falling into the trap of giving someone else the place in our hearts that belongs only to Allah? Think about it. When your entire sense of worth depends on whether someone calls you, when your mood rises and falls with their attention, when your peace disappears at the slightest sign of distance, that is not love anymore. That is attachment. And attachment, if left unchecked, becomes a form of slavery. Psychologically, this happens because the human soul craves security. We all want to feel valued, safe, and significant. And when we don't anchor that need in Allah, we end up anchoring it in people. We think, if this person loves me, then I matter. If they leave me, I am nothing. And that mindset is deeply fragile because people are human. They change, they falter, they disappoint. No person on earth can hold the weight of being your entire source of peace. That role belongs only to Allah. Philosophically, this reveals something very important. Misplaced love is essentially misplaced worship. You may never call it worship, but if someone becomes the center of your thoughts, your fears, your hopes, and your identity, then whether you admit it or not, they have taken the place of God in your heart. And anything placed in the position of God will eventually break you, because it cannot sustain that weight. This is why in Islam, love must always be tied to Allah. We love people for His sake. We build relationships that remind us of Him, and we maintain boundaries that keep Him at the center. The moment we forget this, love becomes dangerous. Instead of lifting us, it enslaves us. Instead of bringing peace, it brings anxiety. Instead of being a blessing, it becomes a mirror reflecting just how much we have allowed creation to take precedence over the Creator. You can see this clearly in relationships where one person loses themselves completely. They stop praying on time because the other person calls. They compromise their dignity just to keep the other person happy. They tolerate disrespect, humiliation, and even abuse because they are terrified of being left. This is not love, this is dependency dressed up as devotion. And Allah in His wisdom sometimes allows these painful attachments to crumble, not because He wants to hurt you, but because He wants to free you. It is almost as if Allah is saying, do not attach your heart so completely to what is temporary, because I am the only one who will never leave you. And when you truly internalize that, you begin to approach love differently. You stop expecting another human being to be your savior. You stop demanding perfection from them. You love them, yes, but you recognize that your peace comes from Allah, not from whether someone stays or goes. And this does not mean love should be cold or detached. Quite the opposite. When love is rooted in Allah, it becomes pure, healthier, and more secure. You love without desperation, because you are not afraid of losing yourself in the process. You care deeply, but you maintain boundaries, because your dignity is not negotiable. You give, but you do not allow yourself to be depleted, because you know your ultimate loyalty belongs to the one who gave you your heart in the first place. This shift is liberating. Instead of constantly fearing loss, you find security in knowing that even if someone walks away, Allah remains. Instead of clinging desperately to people, you hold them with open hands, appreciating them while they are there, but not collapsing if they are gone. That is what it means to love in a way that honors Allah. You love with depth, but you do not worship with blindness. So I want you to reflect on this. Who sits on the throne of your heart? Is it Allah or is it someone else? Because whoever occupies that place will determine the quality of your love. If it is Allah, your love will be balanced, strong, and healing. If it is someone else, your love will eventually consume you, because no creation can bear the burden of being your God. And maybe the greatest act of love you can ever give someone is to not make them your everything, but instead to make Allah your everything, so that your love for them is safe, balanced, and blessed. One of the mistakes many of us make when it comes to love is assuming that if it feels intense, then it must be right. If the emotions are strong, if the connection feels magnetic, we tell ourselves this has to be a blessing. But not every love that feels powerful is pure, and not every relationship that draws you in is good for your soul. Sometimes the very intensity you feel is not evidence of blessing, but a sign that you are being tested. Allah, in His wisdom, gives us signs. He shows us through experiences whether a love is meant to anchor us or awaken us. And one of the clearest ways to tell the difference is by looking at what the relationship does to your heart, your values, and your faith. A love that is truly blessed brings you closer to Allah, strengthens your dignity, and fills your life with peace. A love that is reflective, on the other hand, often does the opposite. It drains you, it unsettles you, and it reveals where you have lost your balance. Think about it carefully. Some relationships strip you of your peace of mind. Instead of feeling calm in their presence, you feel anxious when they are away. Instead of building your confidence, the love leaves you questioning your worth. Instead of giving you clarity, it fills your days with confusion. These are not signs of a blessing, these are signs of a mirror. The discomfort is there to teach you something about yourself. Maybe it is showing you that you place too much of your worth in another person's approval. Maybe it is revealing your tendency to ignore red flags out of fear of being alone. Maybe it is exposing how much you struggle to walk away from what harms you. From a psychological point of view, relationships like this often function as magnifiers. They magnify wounds that are already inside you. If you have a deep fear of abandonment, you will find yourself clinging harder in such a relationship. If you struggle with self-esteem, every small slight will feel like proof that you are unworthy. The love itself is not creating these wounds, it is uncovering them. And in that sense, the relationship is serving as a mirror, reflecting back the parts of you that are most in need of healing. Now, here is where we often go wrong. Instead of looking at what the mirror is showing us, we become fixated on polishing the mirror. We say, if only he changes, I will be fine. If only she gives me more attention, I will feel whole. But the lesson was never about them. It was about you. It was about recognizing what is being revealed and doing the inner work to address it. This is why Allah allows certain loves to shake us, not because He wants to punish us, but because He wants to wake us up. He wants us to see clearly the places where we are compromising our values or neglecting our spiritual boundaries. Philosophically, this is very profound. It reminds us that the measure of love is not how much it excites us, but how much it aligns us with truth. Love that constantly makes you lie to yourself, that forces you to ignore your principles, that causes you to betray your dignity. This is not love that is blessed. It may feel consuming, but it is consuming you in the wrong way. It is burning away your sense of self instead of illuminating your path to Allah. So what should you do when you notice these signs? The first step is to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what is this relationship teaching me? What part of me is being exposed here? And most importantly, is this love pulling me closer to Allah, or is it pulling me further away? If the answer is that it is draining you, compromising your values, or making your heart forget its true center, then you must be honest with yourself. This is not a blessing to hold on to, but a mirror to learn from. And here's something important to remember. Allah does not take something away without giving you something better. If a love is stripped from your life, it is not because you are unworthy of love. It is because Allah is protecting you from what would have destroyed you. The mirror served its purpose. Now the lesson is to carry forward the insight, to heal what was revealed, and to prepare yourself for a love that is healthier, purer, and rooted in Him. So I leave you with this reflection. When you look at your love, ask not only, how does it make me feel, but who is it making me become? Because at the end of the day, the true measure of love is not its intensity, but its direction, whether it carries you toward Allah or away from Him. When we speak about painful love, most people only see the heartbreak, the disappointment, the emptiness it leaves behind. But what if I told you that sometimes in that very pain there is mercy? Sometimes what feels like the most devastating ending is actually one of the greatest forms of protection from Allah. We must remember something fundamental. Allah is Al-Hakim, the All-Wise. Nothing happens without His wisdom, even if at the moment we cannot see it. When a love leaves you broken, when someone you trusted turns away, or when the person you thought would complete your life walks out, it can feel like your entire world has collapsed. And yet often it is in that collapse that you are rebuilt into someone stronger, more self-aware, and more connected to Allah than you ever were before. From a psychological perspective, human beings often grow the most in times of pain. Comfort rarely forces us to reflect, but heartbreak does. When everything is smooth, we seldom ask the deep questions. But when we are hurt, we are compelled to look within. We are forced to confront our attachments, our illusions, and the stories we told ourselves about love and happiness. That pain becomes a mirror, showing us not only who the other person was, but also who we are and who we need to become. Think about it. Some of the greatest lessons in your life likely came not from what went right, but from what went wrong. A broken trust may have taught you the value of boundaries. A failed relationship may have shown you the danger of ignoring red flags. A painful love may have reminded you of how fragile your heart is when it is placed in human hands rather than entrusted to Allah. These are not punishments. They are forms of divine teaching. Philosophically, this shifts the meaning of suffering. Instead of seeing it as meaningless, we begin to recognize it as purposeful. Painful love can strip away illusions you were too comfortable to let go of on your own. It can remove people from your life who were quietly damaging your spirit. It can force you to reclaim your dignity and stop settling for less than what you deserve. And most importantly, it can drive you back to the only love that never fails, the love of Allah. You see, sometimes Allah allows your heart to break, because if it did not, you would continue to cling to what harms you. He knows what you cannot yet see. Perhaps the person you thought was your blessing would have slowly pulled you away from him. Perhaps the relationship you were fighting so hard to save was in reality suffocating your soul. And so in His mercy, Allah takes it away, not to leave you empty, but to redirect you to something better. This does not mean the process is easy. It hurts deeply. It may feel like betrayal, abandonment, or loss, but that is precisely why the lesson is powerful. Pain forces us to remember that the world is temporary, that no human being is meant to be your everything, and that ultimate reliance belongs only to Allah. When your heart breaks, it is as if Allah is gently saying, do not depend on creation, depend on me. If you think back, you may realize that the moments you grew closest to Allah were not the moments when everything was going perfectly, but the moments when you were brought to your knees in grief. It was in the tears of heartbreak that your dua became more sincere. It was in the silence of loss that you turned to Him with desperation. It was in the loneliness after love faded that you discovered the sweetness of His companionship. That is not a curse, that is a mercy disguised as pain. So instead of asking only, why did this happen to me? Ask also, what did this pain come to teach me? That question transforms your suffering into a source of strength. It turns heartbreak into a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. And it allows you to see that sometimes the greatest blessing is not in keeping a love, but in losing it. Never forget, Allah does not break you to destroy you. He breaks you to rebuild you. And the rebuilt version of you, more resilient, more conscious, more anchored in faith, is far more beautiful than the one that clung desperately to what was never meant to last. So the next time your heart aches from love, remind yourself of this. Maybe the pain you feel is not evidence of Allah abandoning you, but evidence of Him protecting you. Perhaps in that very heartbreak is the doorway to the person you are meant to become and the life you are meant to live. And that is the mercy hidden in painful love. It teaches you, heals you, and leads you back to the only one who will never let you go. Would you like me to expand key point 6 next into its own 700-word segment so we can complete the entire speech as a flowing lecture? Here steps the 700-word expansion of key point 6, written in the same rhythm and tone as the previous sections, bringing the whole arc of the speech toward resolution. One of the most important truths to understand about love is that its purpose is not only to make us feel good. Sometimes its purpose is to make us grow. And the loves that act as mirrors, the ones that test us, expose our weaknesses, and even break our hearts, are only wasted if we refuse to learn from them. The pain itself is not the tragedy. The real tragedy is walking away from it unchanged. Every difficult relationship carries within it an invitation to look inward, to recognize what needs healing, and to align yourself more closely with Allah. If someone's neglect revealed your insecurity, then the lesson is not to chase harder after their approval, but to strengthen your sense of worth in the eyes of Allah. If someone's betrayal exposed your tendency to ignore warning signs, then the lesson is not to close your heart forever, but to learn discernment and protect your dignity. If someone's indifference showed you how easily you abandon your values for the sake of love, then the lesson is not to hate them, but to realign yourself with the one who defines your worth. This process is not easy, but it is necessary. Because when you accept what the mirror has shown you, you reclaim your heart. You begin to live with awareness instead of illusion. And slowly, step by step, you move closer to becoming the kind of person who can both give and receive love in a healthier way. A love rooted not in desperation or obsession, but in clarity and balance. Psychologically, this transformation is crucial. If you ignore the lesson, you repeat the cycle. You find yourself drawn to the same patterns, the same unhealthy attachments, the same type of person who reopens the same wounds. But when you acknowledge what the mirror revealed, you break the cycle. You begin to heal the very wounds that once kept you trapped. That is how reflection becomes growth, by turning insight into action. Philosophically, this reminds us of a deeper truth. Life itself is a series of mirrors. Every hardship, every disappointment, every love that leaves a mark is a reflection of where you stand in your journey. And Allah, in His mercy, never leaves you in darkness. He keeps placing mirrors in front of you until you finally see what He wants you to see. Until you recognize that your ultimate fulfillment does not lie in creation, but in the Creator. So how do we transform reflection into growth? We start by being honest with ourselves about what the relationship exposed, honest about the patterns we repeated, honest about the ways we compromised what we knew was right. That honesty is the beginning of change. Then we turn to Allah with that awareness. We seek His help in healing what is broken inside us. We ask Him to replace our unhealthy attachments with stronger connections to Him. And we take practical steps to set healthier boundaries to guard our dignity and to prepare ourselves for love that is God-centered rather than ego-centered. And here is the beauty. Once you have learned from the mirror, you no longer look at it with bitterness. You begin to see even the painful love as part of your journey. You may never forget the sting, but you recognize its purpose. You realize that without that mirror, you may never have discovered your strength, your resilience, or your desperate need for Allah's closeness. In that sense, even the hardest loves become blessings, not because they lasted, but because they transformed you. This is why Allah tells us that with hardship comes ease. Not after hardship, but with it. The ease is in the lesson. The ease is in the growth. The ease is in the way a shattered heart can drive you back to the one who heals hearts. So the question you must ask yourself is this: will I allow the mirror to change me, or will I walk away unchanged? Because love that only hurts you without teaching you is wasted. But love that awakens you, even if it ends, becomes one of the most powerful catalysts for your personal and spiritual growth. Do not despise the mirror. Do not curse the person who reflected it. See the wisdom in what was revealed, and let it shape you into someone stronger, wiser, and more anchored in faith. That is how you honor the test. That is how you transform reflection into growth. And never forget this: the mirror was never meant to shame you, it was meant to awaken you. The question now is whether you will stay asleep or whether you will rise.